Welcome back. You are watching News Centre. Startup founders have stepped up to defend the ecosystem after Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal asked startups to introspect on the sectors they choose to focus on. Speaking at Startup Mahakumbh, Goyal said that Indian startups are focused on food delivery and hyper-fast logistics, while Chinese startups are involved in deep tech like semiconductors and robotics. Listen in.
We are focused on food delivery apps, turning unemployed youth into cheap labor so the rich can get their meals without moving out of their house. And against that, what does a Chinese startup do? Work on developing electric mobility, battery technologies, and with that, they're today dominating the electric mobility ecosystem. We are very proud of what India has done. But are we the best in the world as yet? Resources are going only towards hyper-fast logistics. And look at what the other side is doing. Robotics, automation, machine learning, preparing themselves for 3D manufacturing.
All right, let me now go across to... let's also get you some reactions actually first before we go across to Mr. Mohandas Pai. A lot of industry reactions coming in from Adit Palicha and also Vijay Shekhar Sharma today. So let's see if we can play out those reactions for our viewers.
Well, I must say that the payments pervasiveness will grow because if government or regulator or NPCI brings MDR, I'm sure and I'm hoping that it will come for the big merchants for whom it is not the cost so much. Rather, they pay larger cost even to the card-bearing customers. And then, if this is staying free for small shops, so we will continue to see the expansion. At Paytm, because as you've seen, we champion the small shops to large shops, we do believe that MDR will bring a new revenue stream to the economy, a new revenue stream to the payment economy, and that will be a net accretive for the business and net accretive for the expansion of payments in India.
Yesterday, the Commerce and Industry Minister had alluded to startups in India and China and had explained the difference. How do you look at the entire ecosystem? Do you feel we are at the earlier end of the curve which China has already achieved, or there is much more which we need to do as a government or industry?
The first and foremost I love about it is that 10 years back, nobody would have compared us to anything. The fact that you're being compared means that you're the challenger, you're the next in the queue, and people expect something extraordinary about it. And that is the privilege. And there is no doubt about it. Many Indian companies are not only making the deep tech, the AI, the semiconductor, and you talk about the investments, you read in the newspaper, listen to your own TV channel. The beauty is that India has vibrant ecosystem. There are different stages, different companies are doing it. The success of let's say, the commerce companies or many other services companies acknowledges that customers will also make a viable business model. So India, what it proves is that India is a viable business model. Number two, India has talent and capability to build and expand on new things, and the world is expecting from us.
With deep tech and AI, do you still feel there is more scope in that?
I would say that, it depends on the companies that are doing. I mean, there is no secret about it that we feel privileged that we've been able to do something in the payments, and it has become so wide. And I would again go back to sheer luck and God's love and acknowledgement that we were able to do it. It does not mean that companies were not doing that. And it's the same way, there are many AI companies and there are many AI products that will in due course show up. Obviously, it is something that some people started to invest much earlier, and India might have done some much later.
All right, let me go across to TV Mohandas Pai, chairman at Aarin Capital. Mr. Pai, we have seen some strong reactions. Many startup founders have been emotional. They've come up with strong reactions on the comments made by the Minister, Piyush Goyal, as well. But what's your thought as someone who's looked at the startup story of India very closely over the past few decades? Do you believe that somewhere we need to be more focused in terms of growing as a technology nation and innovation nation?
Look, we are growing as a technology nation, innovation nation. Let it be clear. We have 167,000 registered startups, 22,000 funded, with the third largest ecosystem in the world. What we achieved in the last 11, 12 years is truly extraordinary. I've been investing in startups since 2012. Through all my funds, we have more than 500 startups invested. We have about 50 or 60 deep tech startups. We see a lot of startups in Bangalore. 700 startups come for capital every month to Bangalore. And we have more than 4,500 deep tech startups in India as per Traxin. And Traxin has got the largest database on startups in India and possibly in the world. We have all this, but they're very small companies and they all suffer from a lack of capital. The minister was right in saying that we don't have large deep tech startup. Look at what China has done. But he forgets to add, China invested $150 billion in AI over the last 5 to 7 years. China has invested $50 to $60 billion in the EV industry over the last 10 years and in battery technology. China has invested huge amounts in robotics and other areas. And China is a $19 trillion economy. We are a $4 trillion economy. China invested $860 billion in startups and venture from 2014 to 2024. India invested $160 billion, out of which about 75% is overseas capital. So these are the problems. And today we have a very oppressive regime in RBI. RBI goes after foreign capital, asks for unnecessary documentation, and is a big barrier for things coming. They're going after the venture capital industry today because of unnecessary regulations. And we have a system where big funds like LIC and others don't invest. There's a problem in this country. Minister is right.
Mr. Pai,
Minister, he must understand the problems, remedy the problem. We have met him many times earlier. I met him personally. And sometimes he has said that he's almost given up because he says the finance ministry doesn't listen. It took 8 to 9 years for this very, very wrong, oppressive angel tax to go.
Right. Mr. Pai, those are very significant points that you're saying, but what we would also like to ask you, and essentially what you're pointing out, that all these schemes for funding startups that have been announced till now, including a recent scheme by the Ministry of Defense to really support deep tech in defense, and do you feel that all these funds so far are very small compared to the needs of the industry? Of course, China, the amount of capital available from the government to startups is huge, is great in comparison. But what more can India do to make sure that there is more capital available? You're doing more in terms of skilling your workforce for innovation for the future.
Look, Parikshit, let me give you some data. The union government and state government spend 9 lakh crores a year as subsidy for the so-called poor people. Yes, poor people require the subsidy. Nobody is grudging that. How much do they spend on innovation all across India? How much do they spend on startups? 1,000 crores, 1,500 crores? That's peanuts, man. For a country of this size, 4 trillion, do we have enough money going into startups and for job creation? Who is spending that kind of money? We have a 10,000 crore AI fund, which has been announced by the government 1.5 years back. How much has been invested? We have some frontier tech fund or something the government has announced. How much has been invested? The government should give us data how much has been invested. We had a 10,000 crore fund started in 2015. We worked on it. I mean, it's been exhausted, it's done very well. Now they announced another 10,000 crore fund. In the earlier NDA manifesto, they said they're going to announce a 50,000 crore fund. We are not seeing that. They said they're going to have a 50,000 crore fund for research and R&D in Indian universities. We're not seeing much money go into that. There's been a lot of talk, but not much money has gone. I worked with startup for the last 13 years, and I know deep tech startup that take a lot of time to raise money. Money is not available because people are not willing to take long-term risk in this country because it's too small. Yes, the defense startup system has done well. They should do something bigger. They've done well. I think it's a very good start. But I think we need at least all across India, 8 to 10,000 crores at least to be spent on deep tech startups every year for the next 5 years. We need money for R&D for our universities. We need CSIR and DRDO to release a lot of technology like ISRO is doing to all the startups, though we can work together. We need a collaborative effort. You can't fight a battle with both hands tied behind your back. And what India has achieved in startup, despite all, is extraordinary. Look at what happened in the UPI area. All the startups have come, they work together with the government. Government had a good program. We are the global leader in payments. We're the global leader in payments. So we need something like that to happen. Look at EVs. How much money has India invested in R&D in EVs? Ask the minister how much has he invested. Very small amount. They all come up on their own. Now the companies are coming up, picking up. They're doing well. And I think we need much more capital. We need much more grants. We have to focus on innovation. Innovation requires money. It requires blue sky research. It requires universities to come forward. It requires PhDs in computer science in Indian universities. Remember that OpenAI took about 11, 12 years and spent a lot of money to start with ChatGPT, right? They've spent a lot of money. And see, we don't have that kind of money. And the focus in the government is just not there. They announce programs I mean, it's all stuck in bureaucracy. I agree with the minister that
Mr.
we
Pai,
don't have enough. But Ms. Anand, minister, what is he doing?
Right. That's an important point. You're saying that you cannot fight a battle with your hands tied behind the back. But in terms of lowering what you call regulatory barriers for startups, when it comes to China, they set a goal for 25 years, 50 years. And we've seen the kind of engagement that Xi Jinping has been doing with tech CEOs from around the world in Beijing. How do we need to replicate this in India and also bring down regulatory barriers? You said that to remove angel tax, it's taken 8 or 9 years. What would be the next big ask from the industry in terms of lowering barriers for startups?
RBI is one of the biggest barriers for startups and flow of capital. They're very oppressive. They treat you shabbily. When you go meet them, they don't give time. When they give time, they look down upon you. They threaten you. They say that we are going to push regulations, penalize you for nothing. There's a big issue going with partly paid up units of venture funds, and they want to penalize the entire industry for a mistake that they have done. Who is listening to them? When we go meet them, they listen, look down upon us and say, this is what it is. They're not God's own creatures. They are an instrument of the union government, and they must be responsible. We can't grow a $10 trillion economy with regulations for a $2 trillion economy. Even SEBI has brought in a lot of regulations for AIF, which must be done away with, because AIF investors are sophisticated investors. They brought in a lot of regulations. Some of them are overreach. And today, we don't get long-term capital. How much money has insurance companies invested? Ask them, peanuts. LIC and all the insurance companies have a 18 lakh crore balance sheet. All around the world, insurance companies invest for the long term and make a lot of money. We have insurance companies and pension funds from Canada come here and invest a lot of money. They're making money. Why can't they invest? Because the regulations don't allow. So we got oppressive regulation by RBI, which is in a control regime. The IRDA does not liberalize the regulations, and government and the tax authorities go after you. If angels invest money, they get notices. Angels are getting scared. If you're an angel from overseas, you get a notice, give me this, give me that. They threaten you, give me 3 years tax notice, give me 3 years balance sheet. Who are they to ask all that? If you have a PAN number, give the detail, they must accept it. The amount of harassment, the amount of everything is very, very high. All that must go. We cannot build
Mr. Pai,
$1 trillion innovation economy based on regulation for a $2 trillion economy based on controls. Let me make it very clear.
Yeah. Okay, Mr. Pai, when it comes to having startups, now, Mr. Piyush Goyal made the point that, we are only focused on food delivery startups. Ice cream startups are being made in the country, and many of these are employing unemployed youth in the country, and they are being used as cheap labor. He made that point, and somewhere probably this is a concern for the government that we do not have a skilled workforce ready for the future. We're not as technology ready as China would be, for that matter. Having said that, because there are varying views coming in, there are startup founders who are defending the kind of job creation that have happened. There are others who are saying that this is a clarion call and should be seen as a challenge by the industry. What do startup founders now need to do? Of course, they will go wherever there is a business case. But if you had to give some advice, or if there was a point where you think the startups in the country need to think for the future and probably take an example from China, what would that be?
Parikshit, saying that you're taking cheap labor, look, they're all getting jobs, man. They're filling the belly. I like that that CEO who stood up and said, I'm giving jobs to 1.5 lakh people. If he's not given jobs, where will they be on the street? Is Minister Piyush Goyal giving to give jobs? Whose job is this to train people? Whose job is to skill people? It's a government job. It's a public investment that's required. The IT industry skilled 6 million people over the last 20 years. I was part of that. We skilled them. We spent $3 or $4 billion a year. We created our own thing and created a world-building industry. What did government do to skill all of them? The education system is broken. They got half-trained people who come out of the colleges. We hire them. We train them. We spend money on them. We pay them salaries, and we build this great industry. Right? We did it. What did government do? Yes, they gave us a tax break, which is very good. Now, for all the skilling, they have to spend money. Only now they have an internship program, even a half-baked scheme, but it's still better than nothing that they have. I think the food delivery companies are doing a great job. Like Zest said, all the great AI technology has come from people like Amazon. Amazon set up AWS. They did the cloud technology. They have done the AI. All the AI companies have come from the, from the startup, from the social media. They have done it because they got a huge of data.
Mr. Pai?
It's part of the system. So I think, look, don't deal with us. support us, work with us, solve our problems. We don't want one more minister pointing fingers at us. We are working our butts off building this country. I've been working on this for 12 years. I put almost all my money into startups. I'm funding them for 12 years. We are helping them. Now to hear minister talk like this is really hurting all of us. I think he must calm down and he must call all of us, listen to our problem and solve them and stop the oppressive regulations of RBI and others, which is really a barrier.
Okay.
Regulations for a $10 trillion
We've completely run out of time, sir. Unfortunately, we've completely run out of time, but thank you very much for joining us with your views on this challenge that has been thrown by the government and how you see it. With that, it's a wrap on this edition of News Centre. More news and updates continue right here.